meeting to order, and let's stand for our pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a couple of additions to the agenda? Is it all, we're all good?
I think we're good, unless someone else has something.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay, motion approved, second by John, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, let's get right into our consent agenda, minutes from last meeting. I'll look here, but does anybody have any additions or corrections? Okay, any additions or corrections to the minutes? Is all good? Okay. If not, we'll move on to our December board bills. Bills up already. All right, any questions, comments, concerns?
The only thing on there is you should see Hartley School Bus, 110,000, so our 14 passenger is here. Kim, Mrs. Kautzman, has been driving it. And loves it. I gave her a hard time yesterday because the back was just all dirty.
They still get dirty.
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad
know.
you figured
They're
that
still
out,
getting
yeah.
it dirty, yeah.
Good, I suppose that's gonna throw the budget off now.
We should be pretty good still.
Other than that, it looks pretty normal.
So I was looking up, the officials part. So does every official get paid something different, or is it like a per game thing? Cause they're like all over the board on different
Depends
numbers.
The mileage.
Well, the mileage is separate on there. And then like,
Yeah, I think
Elementary.
Elementary is
Varsity is the
different.
highest,
okay,
Yeah.
and then sub-varsity, and then I think is
I think-
junior high different than
Yeah.
sub-varsity?
Yeah.
so every level gets paid a little different to officiate the game.
100 for basketball, it's $100 for varsity now. They just increased that. I think 85 for JV and C squad, and then junior high is 50
I think so, because it's
Yeah.
usually 100.
Is that per game?
per game.
So on a junior high,
If you have
ref, it
two
would be
games,
2 games
yeah,
at least, if not.
yeah.
I was just curious because there was numbers all over the board there. And I was like, why is this ref getting paid more than that ref kind of thing?
Okay, any other questions on board bills? Okay, if not, we'll roll in the balance sheet here. Balance sheet looks a little different. Amber, did you just get rid of some columns or?
Oh, I put the wrong. I put the wrong one in there. I didn't, I just, yeah. I can try to.
Well, let's skip that one and go to revenues. I don't know if there's anything special to note on revenue. Looks like it's coming in as expected.
Mhm.
Looks like. Have we received now all our ESSER, money ESSER 3 is full? Is that right?
Yep, we've received, yep, we're done with ESSER.
Okay, and if there are any questions on revenue? If not, let's go to expenditures. Questions, comments, anything on expenditures?
I know I brought it up before, but like that dues and fees portion and all this stuff, how come some of them are so far out of whack? Like the one for other support services is 373% of budget, we're $32,000 over budget. I just like, do things just get put in the wrong buckets or?
What number is that one?
Which line is that?
23,810 or 23,10, 810. Or school board, I guess, dues and fees.
Oh, that's because that's where we coded that, Vital Networks. I mean, I just had no other place to code it,
Okay.
so that's why that one
Okay.
would.
Yeah, there was just seemed like there's a few of them. I know there's another one that was like 500% of budget. This one's 331. And then there's some that are 33%. So that's why I'm wondering if they just get put in the wrong category or how it gets broken out.
Sometimes it could, I suppose, but I'm still looking for the 35,000.
It's actually at the bottom of page 1.
Okay. Oh, there it is, okay. Yeah, that one was the Vital Networks where.
Yeah.
That's a payback, so we'll get that back. The other one, I don't know why it's at 333, I'm trying to think what,
It's the next one right below it.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was my travel for being part of the AASA national training. For that.
Yeah, then there's another one that's 419%. I mean, they're just, like I said, and some are zero.
So yeah, I mean, when we do the budget, it's the best guess, but sometimes things come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that's the one thing that always seems to point out as above budget is dues and fees,
Right, yeah, so,
and it's also the most vague. Not saying that there's anything weird going on, but it's just
right,
like that.
you're right. No, and like I said, once we get through this year, then we can do a better job of looking at the budget and seeing exactly what should be where, and cause for this budget, I just took what last year's was basically, until we get a feel for it. Hopefully all the ones under budget and it'll be a wash with the ones over budget in the end, which it should be.
Alright, any more questions? Keep coming, it's easier to explain now. And we have a new balance sheet. Okay, let's go back and grab that balance sheet.
It's not linked anymore to this, you have to.
Or entities.
Grab it up and look there.
Like it's just another consent.
Oh, we gotta look.
file.
And we can go down.
There.
Alright. Everybody find it or?
Yeah, it's not linked anymore, so they'll have to go into the consent agenda folder.
Mine just came.
Sorry.
Okay, any questions on budget? Or balance sheet, I guess? Okay, if not, let's go to student activity report. Yeah. Any questions or comments, concerns on that report?
The only thing while you're looking at this one, if you could look at the last page, 793, class of 2025 equity. And then above that, equity class 2026, it's 88. And those values, we'll talk about that when Dr. Vogel talks about close-up. So if you just wanna keep those numbers in your head, or I guess you could write them down.
Class of 2025,
That would be this year's seniors,
okay, and you said
2026.
Got it.
Well, 2027 is there as well.
So what about the classes that have already graduated? You got like the class of 2021's got $3,200 in here. Where does that money go to, or what's it used for?
That's up to, we generally want the class to decide. It's really specific on what they can spend it to. They can't take it out for cash, they can't buy gifts with it, but they could, purchase something for the playground, and we could put a plaque on there. They could do items like that.
Okay.
2021, I don't know how we would get a hold of them to figure out what they want.
I do have their contacts, but
Yeah.
so far everybody wanted to donate, which by the way are good causes outside the school, and they were told that they can, so they were supposed to
Yeah.
come back and give us some ideas about what they would wanna donate.
Yeah, the way the auditors and the lawyers, even though it was fundraised, since it's in the school budget, it's school taxpayer dollars. So we're really limited on how we can spend those. So, basically it's up to the board on what you wanna do with those older funds and how to use that money.
Is there a point where we say, yeah, we're done trying to contact them, okay, now board, what do we wanna do with it?
You can make whenever.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
haven't contacted them lately. The last time I contacted them was spring. I could check one more time if you would like, to say like if the board comes up with a project, we put your plaque on it, are you okay with that? Or if they have something specific they wanna do in the school, if you'd like me to.
And we see 2023 has $3,000, 22 has $900, so.
2020's got $1,800.
Class is gonna do something for that kid that year.
They were, one was for that
What
family.
class would that have been, 20?
Yeah, 2020. So, I mean, that would give them that option if they still wanna do those things
Right.
on campus, dedicated to someone specific.
And then is there a point where we wanna say, okay, after 6 years graduated, or 5 years, or 4, you're done? The
Yep.
board dictates what to do with it.
That's the board
It's,
decision.
it's
But,
up to
yeah,
the board, but I mean,
we don't want it just sitting there.
yeah.
Amber would love to close them out.
Oh, yeah, you clean up some lines off here
Yeah.
and whatever.
Do we have any other programs in there that are no longer going?
We have a few.
Yeah.
And then also just so you know, our esports received a $2,000 consolidated grant, so that's in there, that was added.
Is there any way to get a list of basically inactive accounts? That nothing's ever, is ever gonna come in or out of it again?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do that, and then we can kinda see what else there and clean this up a little bit.
Talk about it at the next meeting or
So we
something.
put that on the agenda for next meeting is
Yeah.
clean up accounts and activity fund, and then you guys wanna think about, hey, should we do a 5-year cutoff or something like that, or
Part of our conversation
Yeah.
is on policy, so maybe we put that in the policy.
Or 3-year
If you
cutoff.
can't figure out 3, I think that
Yeah,
seems like great plenty as well.
because once you
Cause after
get-
that, do you really think about it anymore?
Right.
Wow, and it's tougher to get a hold of people
Yeah, the longer it goes.
for sure after 3 years even. I mean, it's
Right.
tough. You guys have
I
thoughts
call
on that?
grandparents and parents and whatever we gotta do. Sometimes I ask for investigators in the school to get on Facebook and find how to contact them.
Well, let's put that on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, if we can get a list of ones that probably aren't gonna be used anymore.
Okay. Anything else on student activity? If not, then we can entertain a motion and approve consent agenda.
So,
Okay, motion by John,
Second.
second by Dave, any discussion? Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Alright, consent agenda is approved. Carries. Okay, principal reports. Mrs. Gullickson.
I said I would give you an update on parent-teacher conference attendance. We actually just were still finishing conferences this week, so we are at 97.5% attendance right there, so that was really good. Our enrollment is one student at a time increasing. So we're at 140 right now, and I have another preschool starting in January. You'll see an open enrollment on the agenda, and I've had some others contact this week also of potentially moving into the district, so we're looking at 3 more starting in January, potentially. A Fast Bridge update, at the last board meeting, Mrs. C and Mrs. Pretzer kind of went over what they were working on at Fast Bridge. So they got all the classroom teachers rolling on tier 2 progress monitoring on our tier 2 kiddos in the classroom. So we have at least 1, by next week we'll have 2 data points on all of our tier 2 kids, as well as many data points on our tier 3 kids. So we're anxious to see what those will look like in January when we do our actual full district screening when we come back in January. Another program that you saw in Dr. Ziegler's memo was IXL. So I have 7 teachers that are actively working in figuring out that demo program that Dr. Ziegler signed up for. So it has reading, math, science, social studies. I've had 2 teachers tell me when I sent the email, they were like, "Oh, I've always wanted to try this." I'm like, "Okay, let's do that." So they're diving in head first to see if they can figure out. It's supposed to connect with Fast Bridge, so Mrs. C is particularly excited about that piece because she feels like that was missing from the Fast Bridge piece. So hopefully that will work out for them. We just finished up Jump Rope for Heart about 2 weeks ago, so we raised $1,619 through the Kids Heart Challenge for the American Heart Association. So we had a very small crew that participated in that. So the 13 of them that signed up to do it raised a lot of money. So they did good.
That's awesome.
This week, the Taylor students and staff are participating in Spirit Week. So we've had a lot of elves and Santas walking the building this week. Dr. Ziegler got to see one this morning.
Yep.
She was very excited about her costume today. On Friday, we'll be taking all the kids to Dickinson to the movie theater. So that'll be our first year back in Dickinson. We've been to Hebron, Mott a couple times, so we're gonna try Dickinson this year. So we'll see how that goes. And then next week, Thursday, is the Christmas program for K through 4. So that will be next week Thursday.
That starts at 1.
The K1 concert is at 1, and then 2 through 4 starts at 2.
Okay.
Yep, 2 separate concerts. That's all I got. You're up. Alrighty.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Alright, okay, to add on to IXL, we have some teachers that are really enjoying IXL. A couple of them came down and showed me how they're using their data and doing the tier 2 and tier 3 based on where the students are at. So what's really cool is it actually states exactly where they're high on, exactly where they're low on, and then you can click on those low areas and it tells you exactly what, it sets up the program in IXL what those students need to work on. So as Mrs. Gullickson said, we felt that there was a piece missing with Fast Bridge that gave us all this information, but it didn't give us that extra step. The teachers were having to search constantly, might still have to search some, but as of right now, the teachers are really loving what's happening and how it sets it up, and they're monitoring what's popping up for the students for them to work on other areas. And a teacher has control of adding certain ones at certain times. So then they can monitor just those ones and the increased activity on there.
Yeah, well, excuse me.
No, that's okay.
I think with that, I'm impressed with the teachers because they're going way beyond the training. I mean, we haven't had training yet. So, and they're jumping in and they're really going. So.
And they really wanted to see if it was gonna be that step without having
Right.
to search 500 other places.
Yep.
So it could be a huge time saver, but we'll see in the end how that looks. Just a few updates on things going on in the school. So we have On the Move through NDSU Extension Office coming in. They came in the last couple weeks, last couple of Thursdays. they go through the Thursdays here through December yet and it is classified under our health, but it was really nice that they come and they do that, so. 5th and 6th had vision screening on Monday. We had ASVAB for juniors and seniors who wanted to retake it today. That took place in the gym. Fargo Military, James Post actually came and did the assessment for us. And then we have extra monitors in there, so that went well, I think. We'll see how that goes. Jim Upgren will be coming. He's from North Dakota DPI. He'll be coming on Thursday the 19th, and he'll be meeting with 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and he'll be going over Choice Ready in detail with them again, just because they need to hear it multiple times to see what is required of them by the state before graduation. So he'll be going through some of those things in detail about how they should be in 2 tracks or qualify for 2 tracks, and then he'll answer any questions the students have. And Mrs. Sarah Scott Singer, Mrs. Mason, or myself, I think she's at your school that day, so it'll be Mrs. Mason, myself, going into those 4 classrooms and making sure that if they have certain questions, depending on what those questions are, it affects scheduling or what they need, then we can go ahead and work with them for spring and then next year, whoever needs to. Drama Club, the first time that they had Drama Club, 30 students showed up. They meet again here on the 13th, so I'll give you a better number. We'll know for sure who's involved on the 13th. We have Miss Grass taking the choir to the nursing home on Wednesday, December 18th during 4th hour to sing some Christmas songs, which is always super fun. And then if you want to click on that close-up link, and Amber, if you just want to put it up there, or who's running? You're running? Rhonda's running it?
I can get
Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
If you can grab one and pass
There
it
you go.
around. But I'd like to talk about close-up with you. You can click on it on your screen too. We don't have to have it up there if you don't want. There's a link in there. Sorry, Rhonda. So a couple of years ago, we had a family ask about close-up. Last year we had a couple. This year we had a couple. And I think someone else spoke with Dr. Ziegler, a couple people talked with Mr. Kohler, and then a couple people separately have called me. So we're starting to get more and more interest. We did talk about the possibility, do we need to start looking at this as our senior trip, because it does take a long time to raise the funds, or do we keep the trip how it is and just make it more educational at this point? So you have a handout there that talks about the cost for the students, but if we go through the PowerPoint on the screen, it explains what close-up is, if you do not know, but it's a week-long trip in DC. They visit multiple areas that's related to what they learn in their history classes, 9th through 12th grade. They get to be part of workshops. They work with government officials and have discussions with different people. They're broken and split up, sometimes based on their interests, sometimes based on depending on how many people are in that group at a time, and then they're split up or things like that. So it's very interactive, very good. And I can say that from my personal opinion since I was a close-up student. So it really actually made history come alive for me actually. But it is expensive, so it's something that we really have to decide if we can do or not. It talks about why go to close-up if you want to read that up there, but it's not just sightseeing, but it's enhancing their knowledge and receiving information about social studies classes and more active, engaged citizens. I did see people go to close-up that were very, very passive and learned how to gain the knowledge on different topics to be able to have conversations and be part of that, because in a history class and memorizing a book sometimes, which isn't necessarily how we do it anymore, but you know, you think about those topics, it's not necessarily real life all the time. Mr. Kohler has been contacted by Close-Up, oh gosh, probably the last couple of years here. And then Mr. G was also contacted, but at that time, we just weren't interested at that time, I guess. But it talks about for every 10 students, a teacher will be able to come along free. So some of our classes would get 2 supervisors, some of them would get 3 supervisors. And we would want to make sure that any of our large classes have 3 supervisors if we decide to go forward with any of this. A program assistant is assigned to us in case someone's sick or needs a doctor. So since we don't know much about the area, who to go to, who to get quick service, which clinics we're at. There's also insurance for students, and then there's night monitors in the hallways to make sure that they're watching them and checking over safety of the building and things like that.
So where do they stay?
They stay at different motels all over
Oh, okay,
because you have many groups from different schools, so you can't put them in one area.
gotcha,
But that's why they assign specific people to be with your group
okay.
from the Washington DC area. Here's where it talks about the cost per student, and I did ask Mr. Kohler to find when the cheapest, the most cost efficient time is, and that is in June and July. So I did talk to Dr. Ziegler. We had a couple conversations that it would be fine if we went in June. The round trip airfare is included, and the cost does change, but right now it's $21.37, and that includes the airfare. And then I wanted him to include everything that's included in that price, which is also on his sheet for more information regarding. And then I also wanted you to see what an itinerary looks like. So that first day is what an itinerary looks like. They don't give them much downtime. It's a super busy learning time. There are, a couple fun things here and there, and then the rest of it is like engaged learning time. So I just wanted to bring that up, if that's something that you guys want to look at or not. If not, we can keep the senior trip how it is and plan more educational. The thing is that you probably should know is that, two things, is that if we decide to go with Close Up, they would have to commit about their freshman year, because they would have to make sure that they're part of that raising of money or fundraising, different things like that. Or if a family just wants to pay it, they could just pay it. Don't have to, but as of the money that we make now, it won't cover the trip. So,
I mean, the money that's raised for a normal senior trip would.
yes, it won't
Cover
cover,
this?
no, it won't.
What is a normal senior trip? Tell us more about that. You said like how it is right now. What's the plan this year?
Right now, they have a couple of fundraisers every year, and it gets, like, you'll see, like the freshmen don't make much money, but the sophomores start making more money, the juniors start making more money. It just depends on what we're doing. Concessions are junior year, 50-50 their senior year. They get to do some other fundraisers. We usually end up between 12 to 15. I think sometimes we've had a little bit more than that, but
Yeah.
based on a bigger class of how many they're fundraising, what they're selling, things like
So,
that.
You said $1,200 to $1,500 per student. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's
Oh.
been about $12,000 to $15,000 every
Total.
senior trip.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then currently they go to Minneapolis.
So you jumped from, so the 12 to 15,000 is the cost of the trip, or that's what was raised from the fundraiser?
That's what was raised.
That's what's raised from. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we typically seeing for a trip, cost wise?
Minnesota, Mall of America, Twins game, Valley Fair.
And what's that
Sometimes a
kind of
football
cost
game or a
wise?
basketball game.
I
They actually can only pick depending on what their budget
Oh, I see.
is what
Okay.
I've worked on them with. So we say, this is your budget, here's your itinerary, you don't make this amount, what are you taking out? Or are you coming home a day early?
Okay. So like send the same, do we typically get pretty good participation in the senior trips or?
We have good participation, usually, at least over 3/4.
Over 75%?
Think you'd have less participation if it was a close-up trip?
I don't know, I'm not sure. It could be more, it could be less.
I'd really be interested in that for helping decide is, like, take for instance this year, I see it's after graduation. Does that affect it? And what would be the participation rate?
I would suggest that we start with maybe the freshman class and ask them. I think it's a little late in the game to be asking
Oh, yeah.
juniors and seniors if they wanna go on a close-up trip this year, I think that's kind of where you would start to gauge interest is maybe freshman, sophomore, and see if that's something they're even interested in doing
right.
as a class.
How many kids are in freshman and sophomore class?
Freshmen are 35.
You're talking.
Freshmen, 35 and 20. She has them.
35 freshmen, 20 sophomores.
And
So
Kohler thought they
35
could
if
maybe
it's-
get it going for the juniors, but wasn't sure.
Let's say if you get 75% of 35, I mean, you're talking a lot more than
a big
12,
number.
$15,000.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I guess what we did previously in Hebron is that you fundraised and whatever was left, you paid.
The family's paid, yeah.
So, but I did wanna bring it up because we are getting more and more interest. I've had phone calls. The last 2 years I have asked Hebron if they would allow some of our students in, the ones that were interested. And they do have a policy to create their own fundraising that their own students are allowed to go, which, I mean, that's just how it works sometimes. So, and I did ask again this fall when I got a few phone calls and that.
So they don't do a senior trip at all then?
They do a senior trip, but it's very small and they usually like rent a Bismarck for a day. Or something.
I know I did talk to one of
They've
the
done a
teachers up in
couple
Kildare,
things.
and they got pretty good participation rates
Does it have to
in
be
there,
all or
so
nothing?
She couldn't say enough good things
Like all
about it.
students or no students?
No, I mean,
Or,
Yeah.
either
Just
close
as
up
East
or
Ridge
senior
last
trip,
year,
but
she
not
had a
both.
miserable time.
Oh,
I think
really?
just because of
fundraising
the,
would split,
But
we would
I think
lose,
it just
so,
depends on
cause we
the
do the
kid
same
and
fundraisers,
That's just
What
it.
you wanna
unless if we're
expect
all of
out
a
of it,
sudden
you
gonna
know?
expand to a whole bunch of new
Yeah, that's
fundraisers,
just.
which, I mean,
I got some buddies with it.
when I first came, we were asked to cut it in half, so we're about 15 to 18 a year.
Time, you know?
We used to be at like 30 to 40, and we were getting kickback from the community at that time, if you remember, just like, we love helping the school, but we're asked constantly.
yeah.
So you have to respect that too, but.
you might have to raise that amount with inflation every year.
Yeah, you might.
Really, seriously.
A couple more every year.
But I'm not saying a big senior trip and a big close-up, but if they were really interested in close-up and then you said, let's still do a one-day senior trip, that wouldn't cost much, you know, would that be acceptable as well?
Oh, to do both, you mean?
Yeah.
But that's what you said Hebron kinda does.
Yeah, they do a day trip, like, so their whole senior class can have one big
I mean,
shebang together at the end of the year.
So where did the idea of it being part of the senior trip come from? Was that one of the students or was it?
No, actually, we were just discussing that
Yeah.
because we were just trying to say like, okay, like how can we handle this without putting in another 15 fundraisers, or
Oh,
how
I
can
see.
we not burn the students out? Usually by the end of their junior year, they are so sick of concessions, you get popcorn out and you can see them gag. Like literally. But you know, and we have to be careful of that. We want our kids to be in everything too, so we're constantly pulling them in between sports to do concessions and do everything, so we try not to burn them out. And then seniors have been doing 50-50 for a while, and that's been helpful. They get a lot of money on that, but we have to do that a little bit differently too.
Yeah. Well, and to me, any senior trip should be educational. I mean, and going to the mall and to Valley Fair and to see a Twins game, how educational is that? I mean, that's entertainment, definitely, but what's the educational value? If we're gonna spend that much money, what are we getting back? And I know, like you said, with 30 kids, 30.
well, you're over 50,000.
That's over 50.
Well, 60 with 30
Yeah, it'd be
kids,
60.
but I think you figure with 70%'s 26, 27, at 75% of 35, so you're $56,000,
Yeah,
$55,000. It's a hell of a lot more than 12,000.
right.
That's a lot of
It is a lot of, that's a lot of popcorn.
Yeah, that's a lot for the value.
But I did wanna bring it up so that you guys have the option to think about it, discuss ideas or what you would like to see done. We will do whichever, but being we have had interest from the community members on and off.
So is it something that the school has to participate in order for our students to even have the opportunity to go? Or can a student just decide, hey, I wanna go to close-up and raise
No.
their own money?
No, they'd have to be part of a school.
A school that
So
is
we
participating.
have, she's a junior this year, right? Yeah, we have a junior this year that's gonna go to close up with partial,
I see.
but then partial has to agree to take her and be,
okay.
yeah, so it's still
Okay.
part of a school.
What, is there like a minimum number of students to make a group? No,
No, you
Just
just
got those
get a
volunteers.
free supervisor for every 10.
okay,
Yeah.
I see.
So is it something then, you know, to tail off of that, where you could have a close-up club and say, yeah, these kids, if you wanna be in that, could do that?
And just fundraise for just that club.
Yeah.
Could, we just
Yeah.
have to come up with some different ideas of how to fundraise.
And, you know, run it, run
Yeah,
it more
and
like
whatever's
an
left, they pay.
extracurricular club, and they do their fundraising, and if it's, 10 kids a year, that's,
Yeah.
that's the way you roll.
Are all of the sessions in summer?
No,
No.
they're all year round.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yeah, it's just that I asked them to find the most cost efficient one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and June and July was the
Is that because of
So
flights
let's-
or what?
Let's say
I
that
can ask.
they go a different month, like what's the high end look like, do you know?
Oh, I think it was close to 4.
Close to 4.
Well, it's whatever concert's going on in DC for the hotel rooms.
Or, yeah, it's basically buying hotel rooms and
Yeah.
airfares,
Yeah.
pretty much the
Demand, supply and demand.
deal, yeah.
So it's up to you, or you wanna take it after that, so you guys can think about it and discuss it, and if you have any ideas, we're up for ideas.
But I think too, I mean, with a trip of this caliber and the way it is, I see the school chipping in part of that too, instead of having all the money raised by the kids. I mean, we send kids to other things and.
Well, I guess for me, I'd suggest the board ask just to gauge student interest and get a feel for what we've got out there, and we can see if we can find a way to help support it, right?
But I think the junior and senior is probably too late.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it'd be too
Maybe
late
even
now.
sophomores, but.
Yeah,
I think sophomores, you got enough time to make it happen yet. 2 years,
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I mean. Cause what does the junior class have in theirs?
2,000
2,000 something. I find like Joey's idea of setting up a club like that, I think that makes, but you're gonna have to go back down to the freshmen too, because to raise that kind of money in any amount of time.
Yeah, you might only have, a handful of kids, maybe there's only 6 that wanna do it, but they're 6 dedicated.
I know it's hard to cover the money, but honestly, that's cheap. $2,000, $2,100. And that's meals for a week. I think it costs me that to feed my kids sometimes. Just hit Costco, so.
Yeah, you look at that. You could go to DC for
You
it
know,
yourself.
It's
I have
not
a quick question.
really out of line,
Hungry boys down there.
right?
Misty, if there isn't 10 and you don't get that free adult, like does the adult cost the same as a kid or is it a different price then?
No, I think it's the
Say
same.
they do is it the same, okay,
I think
but I was just
so.
curious, like if
Yeah.
they do the club and you have 8 interested,
Yeah.
like what is that?
And we would have to make sure that we're covering that person then at that point.
Yeah, I think at that point, they say, well, the school can pay for the adult advisor.
Right.
Right.
Cause that'd be some serious fundraising, I mean, for a group to raise that kind of, that's gonna be some.
Yeah, that's gonna be,
Yeah.
that's tough.
But not that it can't be done.
Okay,
So we're gonna do like a poll with the
That's
kids then and
That's it.
what was that?
do like a poll with the kids and see what they wanna do,
Sure.
do a presentation and then
Yeah.
maybe report back next meeting and kinda.
I'll probably have Mr. Kohler do it. That's okay? Yeah,
so we
he can do it
ask
in his
them all,
classes and,
should report back to.
Yep.
give them the presentation, what it is and what it's about, and then whether they wanna do it or
see
not.
what the interest is.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. Any more questions for Dr. Vogel on anything? Okay. We have a presentation from Mrs.
I'm out.
Kreitz.
I'm trying.
She's been so.
Trying to take over the screen again. Oh, and we gotta take a break and hand around candy and stuff. Well, I was gonna say, while you work on your presentation coming up, but you got it up there already.
So, Dr. Ziegler put on an all-call and I was the guinea pig. I volunteered to do it real quick, so, I'll just show you, this is what my freshmen are working on. I do a lot of project-based learning where it focuses on the 21st century skills that kids are required to use. And the first one that they're gonna do right before Christmas is the Rube Goldberg. I don't know if you've ever seen this, it's basically the guy that did cartoons in the 20s and the 30s in the New York Times, and he was known as the crazy scientist. They're called the chain reaction machines, and they have to, we just learned about the 6 different simple machines, and they have to incorporate 3 to 4 simple machines. I think it's 3 minimum simple machines in their Rube Goldberg. They have, where is it at, right here. They have their requirements. They have worksheets, the kids are going to be completely organizing by themselves as if they're project managers, they have to figure out how to do this. They have to come up with an end result first and do backward design. They're going to do research tomorrow. They're going to pick their teams, or they have their groups already. They're gonna pick which parts they wanna see. They're going to have a discussion about supplies and stuff that they're going to bring, and they have to test it successfully by next Thursday. So if they get done early, they get to work on science fair. But they do have certain things that are required. They have to have check-in, they have to have journaling, they have to have their rough draft, they have to have their plan, who's responsible, just like if you were working on a job project. And then they do, at the end, they do a peer review, they do a self-evaluation and reflection so they can see how they are, and then they will do a 21st century write-up for their binders for their graduation requirements. And this is the freshmen. And this is just a small project that they do because I don't really want to start thermal energy right before Christmas when they have to reteach when they come out after Christmas. So this is kind of bridging something where it talks about complex and compound machines and incorporates, they just did levers, pulleys, inclined planes, wedges, they just did all that. So now they have to incorporate them in here. I do not right now have any restrictions on them besides the fact that they can't have an animal, can't use a mouse trap, can't shoot anything, no open flames, because there have been questions. So I had to, this was created today just on the questions that they had because it was an introduction. Today they're like, can I have a hamster? And then I was like, what? And he goes, I could have my mom totally pick one up in Bismarck tomorrow. And I was like, no, we're not going to have pets that are going to be introduced that way. So they do have a couple of restrictions. They will, again, I think there's a total of 9 groups between the 2 sessions that will be doing this. They're going to video them when they do them, and we want to place them out on the school website. So people can see their little projects. So that is the freshmen. And that's what we just started today. And then the other one that I've just started is the computer science requirements for graduation. It's changed a little bit, but what I do is I do have a coding class. It's like beginning coding. The kids go on. We are on right now with the whole idea. Talk about digital information. We talk about the binary system, we talk about coding, we do colors, we do pixels, we do a whole bunch of different stuff where you literally learn that coding is a different language. And the kids make a little machine called a flippy-do, and it shows them how the binary transfers into actual numbers. So if I want to make the number 8, they know how 1s and 0s sit to find an 8, and they have to then create their own language using binary coding. They have to create everything from capital letters to lowercase letters, numbers, special icons, whatever it is. And they learn very quickly that it's not just as simple as 1s and 0s. You also have to have math in there. There's a lot of keeping track of things. You have to be very restrictive with your rules. It's not a, well, I think it's this, it's yes or no. There is no in between, there is no gray area. And then the second unit that we covered was the internet. They did how routers work, how can you know, why is it that when you're in this building, you can connect to the printers in Carrie's room and down in the library and in the office. And then we talk about what the network is, what happens if the big fiber optic network came up, and how some houses have it and some houses don't, and what has to happen to get them out there, what happens if a line gets cut, and how do you maintain a service with if one of them goes down, not everybody goes down. We talked about the party lines on their phones when they first started. That was a trip. They didn't believe me. I brought in a couple other people. One girl went home and talked to her grandma, and she's like, yeah, you could literally pick up the line and listen to the tea. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the one we're on right now is we are in app design, where the students are creating their own app they make screens, they go through, they have buttons, they have answering, they have different screens. I think I have one student that has 32 screens, and I have another student that has 7. But the difference in them, one of them is like you can go 16 screens deep. The other one you go 4 screens deep, but it's like a question and answer. They range from hunting. One is helping you to pick a breed of dog that works for your family. Another one is on aircraft for different military outfits. I bet you'll never guess who that is. Mr. Paulson. Okay, so it ranges so much and it allows them a lot of freedom. So right now what we're doing, and I can show you what they're doing right now, is they are in the process of building their screens in the middle of it. So this is what the teacher side looks like. I get the pre-unit, they have a whole bunch of activities that they're doing. So right now we are in lesson 5, and what they're doing is they're learning how to code for their app. So like this one here, you see a whole bunch of different color blocks on the right hand side. You can run this thing, and if you watch the coding on the right hand side, it gets highlighted and it goes through. It's kind of hard to see because it's yellow and they highlight in yellow, but what you see on the bottom is the log. And then what can happen is if I go over here and click on the button, it'll change. And then they're basically coded, and that's the yellow that's inside the green. And what the kids are learning is that when you have a screened app, which is what they build on the left hand side, they have their own screens that they import their pictures and stuff. And then they are learning how to make it go from screen to screen. How do you create a back button? How do you create the home button? What do you do? So every single one of the activities you see across the top does a different skill set that they need. So this one here, they're looking at this app over here. They're reading the code and seeing what the code is telling them, and then they respond to a prompt. If you want to know, they can also look at it in JavaScript. Some of them have found out that JavaScript is a lot easier to copy and paste rather than looking at the color blocks. Color blocks are nice. Sometimes they like to see it. And if you go on here and change something and it doesn't work, over by the numbers on the left hand side, that's right over here, it will highlight where it's wrong. Until we get to our next lesson, which is debugging, it doesn't highlight it for them. They have to figure it out at that point. But they're getting used to the fact that if you capitalize and you don't have to capitalize, that won't work. If you have a space where you think like green button should have a space between it, that won't work. They find out very quickly that there is no gray area. There is no interpretation by the machine. It is black and white. And I had one kid last year that he looked for 4 days, and it was because of a capital C. But his brain saw C and didn't even see it, and it was the kid in the room, I'm gonna say it was Mr. Lee Huff. He helped a kid who is probably one of my higher programmers. I would even go on the verge and call him a hacker. He has no keyboard keys, it's all blank. And Lee goes, well, it's your C. 4 days, it was over a capital C. So it really shows them that in coding you cannot work alone. It is a group issue. It's a group effort. They get frustrated about this time because they want it to do something, and in their head this is how it's going to work. They have to learn to talk like a computer talks and get it to go through them. Do they have to code it the same way? No. Can they help each other and say, okay, well, why don't you try this? Oh, I didn't even think of that. And then that works. But it's like they get so stuck, they have to start seeing outside the box, which is a critical thinking aspect of coding.
So is this Microsoft Studio Code then, or is there a trainer of it, or what?
This is code.org, which is kind of an offshoot of Microsoft. The other thing we're talking about is I'm in the process of talking to Unity, which creates like a whole bunch of Fortnite is created with Unity, and they actually have programs for schools that I could do a whole entire class on gaming, and they create a game by the end of the class period is done this semester. We have on the dashboard here, they have other ones that the kids can mess with, like they have this music lab where they can go in here and they can mess around and they can apply the knowledge that they have and create, like you see the big DJs with the big stands and all the screens and stuff, they actually can create a mashup of songs on here using coding by being able to import and export some of the sound bites that they have. So it is ridiculously large, it is completely overwhelming, and you feel about this smart. But that's where we group up together and we're like, okay, here's my problem, here's what I want it to do, can you help me? And they realize that it is a group effort, it is a village issue, not just an individual. I said, we talked about, there was one guy on here, you watch videos, he is the main gaming overseer for Fortnite. And he said, if I did this by myself, he goes, there's no way. He said, I would have to look at code lines, I think he said 10,000 code lines every second for 4 years for one level in that game. And he said now he has some that deal with the weapons, one deals with the actions, one deal, he said I couldn't do by myself, he said, and I can't even tell you how many thousands of people do this. So they get a whole taste, like a little taste of what this is, and some of them are excited. I think I have a couple of the kids that are signing up for that coding camp in the summer at DSU, because they thought this was really cool. So yeah.
Awesome, cool.
That's me.
Cool.
Do you guys have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Well, this might be a technicality, but you just mentioned that on the first segment, you know, they'll do videos of their machines and then you can post them on the website.
Mhm.
Do we have to be careful with that, or is there a policy that says?
We don't show their face.
Oh, so that is possible to do it
Yes.
that way? Oh,
As long as we don't show, when I put stuff out there, I don't have the kids, they show the machine, they will not put their face in there. Because some of them, I know in the elementary, they've had an issue before where some people sign off, yes, you can use their kid,
Right.
you know you can't. I don't put faces on there.
but on the other hand, we video every basketball
I
game,
know.
football game, you know,
Yeah.
all the sports
It's a double-edged
are
sword, yeah.
streamed, you know,
Yeah.
Most of,
so.
parents sign a
yeah.
form, whether or not we can show their faces in
Oh, I-
advertisements or on the web or things like that.
I'm sure I signed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the blanket ones, yeah.
No, I was just that crossed my mind like.
We try not to, like when we do stuff in class, we try not to do faces just because some of them, if they know that you're looking at the experiment and not them, it's a completely other animal, they will talk. If they know they're being recorded, they will not talk. Mhm. Yep. Any other
Good.
questions? Okay,
Oh, cool programs.
thank you.
It's, I mean, definitely stuff that gets kids thinking.
And the thing is that it is free, anybody can sign up. Even if you have littles at home that wanna sign up. I know this is something that we had talked about doing, during some of the library time. That the sixth graders, they do it, they log in and they play. It's nice because it gets them used to the language and it gets used to them hearing it. Because like right now, I have, this semester I have about 10, 12 kids that are taking it. Next semester I have close to 40. And they are nervous and they are scared because they're seeing what the other kids are doing. But then they're like, okay, but I'm excited, but it's different because they've never heard this before. They've never seen this before. And like I said, some of them like the coding, block coding, some of them like the Java because they can copy and paste real fast. So yeah, I have to remind them that's not cheating. It's smarter, not harder. Anything else?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
gonna bail on ya.
Welcome to stay. Welcome to stay. Does anybody need a break before we roll on, or you guys keep on rolling? Rolling the old business. Okay, good. District strategic plan update.
So we, Dr. Schott sent us the template, we're gonna sit down as a writing team. The principals picked who they want on their team, there's gonna be 6 from each building. or 3 from each building, plus the admin. So, and then we'll start on that writing process, and then we'll keep you updated as we go along with that. Yep.
Is this an area where, we talked about, last meeting, we talked about possibly, board retreat or something like that. Is this, maybe our strategic plan, once it's complete, something where we could sit as a board and hash through it? This is gonna take some time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna take some time for us to look at it, where we say, hey, we're gonna take 3 hours and
I think that'd be a good
basically
idea.
do that as a board
Yeah.
retreat and hammer through that plan.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's an option. Somehow we gotta get through it, so. So. Is there any other comments or things on the strategic plan? If not, lighting update.
Lighting update, the grants have been approved by the Commerce Department. I've signed both, I've received one signed back for, that's the gym here, waiting for Taylor's to come sign back from the Commerce Department, and then they're ready to go, they're ready to start work, so.
They'll just figure out how to get in
Yeah,
nights, weekends,
yep,
Christmas break, whatever.
yep, so that's on the move.
Okay, new business. Looks like we have a calendar.
The question I have on the calendar, is there a reason for the preference of professional development days on Mondays?
I think what we tried to do is give the parents and students either like 3-day weekends or things like that. Fridays are hard a lot of times because of activities that are going on. So kids are gonna have to be coming in anyway. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that, the long weekend. The other side, I don't know, from a, if you got 2 working parents, finding
yeah,
random daycare or somebody to take the kids on Monday is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So it, I appreciate that that's a difficult piece to, but if there was some good idea there, that one seems like all businesses in that want you there Monday at 7 a.m., right? But for some reason Friday at noon is optional at most
Right.
business in this world anymore, but
what do we have for, oh yeah, we have quite a few on Mondays.
yeah, basically it's, every month there seems to be one of them.
Yeah. 4 on Mondays, 2 on Fridays.
First day of school, August 20th.
Yep.
It seems like it's too early.
I know, I disagree a little earlier. When did we start this year?
I think it was like the 18th this year, wasn't it?
Nope.
What was it, 21st?
21st. Yep, 21st.
What is the requirement right now as far as days and contact hours? What's our equation work out like?
Oh, we're over the amount that's required.
Okay,
I can't remember the exact hours. Elementary is different than the high school, but it's, if you figure 65 days of student contact, it works out to about the number of hours that is required. And
with our schedule, you're saying with our day? No,
yeah, with our day.
with our day, okay.
Yep,
okay.
yep. So, and we're going, this next year we'll be at 170 student contact days, or is it 171? 170.
Does that mean we could have 5 snow days?
Essentially.
If you,
If it
if we
gets
ran
that
into
bad.
that.
Yep.
Cause we also have some built in, don't we?
Right. And this year they're built in at the end, but I didn't like that because nobody wants to go to school after school is over. So we built them in during the year. February 13th, and April 6th.
Oh, okay. So if a snow day is needed, we'll go to school that day. If not, it'll be a professional development day.
Correct.
So that one.
Correct. Yep.
I thought you were just predicting those were the days it was gonna
That would be impressive.
I'm in the wrong business if I do that.
September 15th.
Dr. Ziegler, I'm not sure how picky it is. It's highlighted correctly. TRE conference is 20th and 22nd. We have 20th and 21st on in this middle section underneath
Oh.
parent teacher conferences.
Okay, we'll
We
get
have
that changed
2021,
before we send
that's
it out.
2022.
So 20 and 22.
Dr. Vogel, does the August 20th date work pretty good for the online classes or the what is it, the RACTC classes they can take or?
Let me go, well, I'm checking if they have it on.
So
the
those are the
calendar.
ones that always seem to start
They are,
early, but we gotta be close.
You gotta be good.
we gotta be pretty close there.
I think they might start on the Monday or the Tuesday,
Maybe the 18th.
18th or 19th.
Okay, so that works. They can still make those up.
They have a new calendar made yet.
I thought I saw it come out. The ref, or the
Yeah, they have it out.
Great Northwest came out, yeah.
Southwest has their calendar on, right?
Yes.
So we really don't do a spring break per se anymore, huh?
Usually that is in March.
At 13th and 16th.
Yeah.
13.
So 13 through 16 would be our spring break.
Okay.
Yeah.
In April you grind away.
Yeah.
Nobody takes personal days that month.
No. There'd be nothing going on in April 11th.
Yeah, you can basically get an Easter break there.
Yeah, this year the first is Easter.
April is always a crapshoot because you can get 2 feet of snow in April,
Oh, yeah?
or it'll be just gorgeous.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, one or the other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not usually in between.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a reason for it to go down, we start so early? I mean, Minnesota doesn't start till the Tuesday after Labor
After
Day.
Labor
Labor
Day.
Day.
It's always been after Labor Day.
That's state law or state constitution, isn't it, in Minnesota? They like,
They go into June though, don't they?
I'm sure they do.
They do.
Yeah.
I
In
remember that.
Wyoming, we always ended up into June. That's why it matters so much what your day,
The few go.
things we could do about it is try to get a few more, it's amazing what 15 more minutes
Okay, I'm gonna tell you
contact
this,
hour in a
Dr.
day
Ziegler,
does
We're taking
for
weather.
number of days you
James'
do per
birthday
year.
is March 5th. Of the last 6 years, we have had a snow day on 5 of his birthdays.
Oh, really?
It'll be a good long weekend.
Right, and then they're gonna have to reschedule all the parent teacher
Yeah, you
conferences.
could
I'm
see
just
that.
saying.
Start adding
You're
a few
talking about
minutes of
predicting,
contact
and it
time in a
just-
day, and you can
Chrissy's not in school anymore, maybe
weed
it'll
off the
change.
calendar pretty easy.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
now I'm
We
gonna cry.
graduated.
Now I'm
yeah.
gonna cry.
Contact hours, not school day, you know. That classic 180, that's really
Yeah, I think
not
since 6th grade.
a thing, it's your contact hours.
Okay,
But I know since
that's like
That's
kills,
why
I know they're
old
like,
school, you can get away with like 4 hours of contact hours and
weekend.
you can just knock it out, so.
yeah, killed here for their PD stuff, they like early out on every other Wednesday or something
Right.
like that, they get out at like 2 and
Yeah.
that's their PD time
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, Hebron still does their late starts every, I
Late
don't know
starts
what
for
their
PD.
schedule is, but they still have late start.
Late start.
What is our,
we used to do that too,
Yeah,
like
we
start
don't-
early outs,
Yeah.
and there's a fair amount of pushback on
Talk
that
about
too.
daycare problems.
Oh, yeah.
Because then, yeah, you're
oh yeah,
doing a late start,
lunchtime, you're trying to.
all of a sudden you're,
So I think having the Mondays off works a lot better than doing early early outs or late starts or any of that
Right.
stuff.
I mean, I think that's why we're at where we are, because we said, well, let's just take the day and.
Does Friday just becomes, what's the concern there? It becomes too many staff are missing the PD then, or?
Just there's
Practice.
a lot of stuff going on,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause our PDs tend to be full days?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh, we've got that.
Yep. Start at 8 and don't get out till 3:30.
Yeah.
And then, is there a reason that we end on a Wednesday rather than on the Friday before graduation?
That's just with the number of contract days. So our teachers are 180 days contracted time.
Okay.
So that's just, I guess if you start on that day, that's where it works out.
Is there any wisdom to the idea of having graduation before the last, if we've got enough contact time in? It always seems odd to come back for graduation after school's out, in my life, I don't know.
Well, they used to be able to, you could graduate your seniors the week before and still have school the next week.
Right.
You can't do that in North Dakota anymore.
It's like in century code or what?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, it must be, because when school's out for everybody. You can't just have one class be done. So your seniors can't be done before everybody else.
Do they have a reason for that, or is that just popular opinion?
I don't know. And then, I know it would be kinda nice to have graduation the 17th, the week before, cause everybody else has graduation on Memorial Day. So if we could have it on a different weekend, I mean, that might be kinda nice, but then you'd end up starting a week earlier in August.
Right.
Well, could we start on that Monday rather than on the Wednesday and still graduate on the 17th?
Well, wait a minute, didn't we say we have 5 extra days built into this thing?
5 extra days built in.
We're warned not to count those as extra days. Cause
Warned by who?
Boy, where'd that come from?
Don't start messing with that.
I'll slap on the wrist if you do, I mean.
Is that
No.
right? Okay.
yeah, cause the legislature, it was a battle just to get that in.
Right.
And then if schools start just going strictly by the number of hours that's required and cutting back student contact time, they'll get rid of it.
So then what was the point of even getting it in, if it doesn't mean anything?
It does, well, it helps us in certain cases, like weather, those types of events. But some schools, I don't wanna name schools, school around here is using that time to basically create a 4-day week.
Right.
They're taking every Friday off using those extra hours, which wasn't the intent of the bill.
So then why can't we just stack it at the end and use it that way?
We're not supposed to use it. If that
But
makes sense.
Here it is, but you can't use it?
Pretty much.
But if you
Or
did,
if we use it, we'll lose it. We'll
Yeah.
lose that flexibility.
on this calendar anyway, though, to Dave's point, if you moved up to the 18th for a start, you could finish on the 15th and graduate 17th.
Right, but then we need to move the PDD to the 15th, and then you're taking that extra, or the teachers last weekend, because we would have to have a PD day first, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Do you have to
Yeah.
have a PD day before school starts? I mean, like, what, is there,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that.
what would,
Yeah.
what would the teachers, does a PD date, I get your idea of a PD date, a paid date to get prepared, is that something?
No, that's not,
No,
that's
that's
not
not
what
the
it
point.
is.
No.
No,
Oh,
we
it's-
have a lot of like
Okay,
like this
Yeah.
year we do stuff,
okay.
like it's not just like preparing.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're not in our classroom
HR
at all,
stuff
hardly
or-
that day.
Yeah, the insurance people come, Aflac comes, it's
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah,
so rather than
operation.
doing it on doing that PD day on the 15th, can you do it on the 13th? Where it's in the middle of the week?
well, you just ask them to come in earlier is the point, and, you know,
But you get out earlier.
fair,
Oh,
But I mean,
And sit in 10 minutes and shut.
but you could argue it the other way too, or, I mean, like, is there any magic to graduating on May 17th?
Honestly, I don't-
I mean, cause you could push all the way back to where you graduate on May 31st too, and I mean, so that it's,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would rather go start school later in August than earlier in August, but
Before,
2 days,
because
I
then the
mean,
seniors
yeah,
don't.
I
to have
school
it
and
move
then
graduation up that
that's
whole week would be nice.
per pupil.
Let's
Because
start
it's
I
also
think so.
state track.
Yeah.
I think that's what
I
that's
think
all.
that's what
everything
it's
else.
for,
Right,
yeah,
state track
now that
is
you
on.
say that,
Yeah,
yeah.
Memorial Day weekend typically too?
because,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's Memorial
you know,
the
you're-
25th.
cause you're gonna get deducted, cause those kids aren't in school.
Right.
I think it's the 25th, yeah.
Yeah, so state track is always 21st, well, it would be the 21st.
You looked up something for us.
Yeah, so next year's not listed on my website yet, but the last two calendars, one was started on the 19th and one started on the 20th.
So that's
So we're about that era.
taking RACTC classes.
We shouldn't be too far off. Then
You know,
they,
still keeps
they,
that option open.
yeah, they give us a couple, I mean, the teachers work with those couple days, it's not like we're a week off. It's actually just our Christmas break, but they work with us too on that, like our semester break, so.
Well,
Yeah.
is it- we've got that whole week of Christmas out, they could go 2 days that week too, if they needed to make up a couple extra days. 22nd, 23rd.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 days right there.
How many students would we have here?
Yeah, mine.
My kids will be here.
One of mine would be, it'd be basketball practice or games or whatever, that they need to be there, so.
Yeah, they've got basketball all through Christmas break
Yeah.
too. So.
My kids would be there.
Not that it has to, but I do wanna say that it's nice to have at least 1 or 2 days from our last day before graduation, because there's a lot to do for the seniors to wrap up their grades and the requirements that way. I mean, we usually know what's going on, but a little time, even if it's just a day, is super helpful.
I know there's a lot that goes into this calendar. There's a lot of coordination and things that you guys do to make this work, so.
And we had a calendar committee this year with teachers from Taylor, teachers from here, and then administrators work on this, so. Yep, it needs to be
I make a motion
approved.
to accept the calendar that was proposed.
Okay, we got a motion to accept the calendar. Have a second.
I'll second.
Got a second. Got more discussion on the calendar? I know we've thrown a lot of ideas out there, but we've changed anything, so. Any discussion? More discussion on the calendar? Okay, so
Yeah, that's kinda where we wanna land at then, you wanna start it on the 20th?
I mean, there's a lot of time put into this, so for us to just sit here and say, let's do this instead would be pretty,
Yeah,
I mean,
It's nice for teachers and students not to start with a full week.
okay.
I guess the other question would be, you know, is it critical we approve this tonight, or is there any reason that you could delay and massage it
I program it in Power School in January.
in January?
Want me to go see what day that is? It might be after the board meeting.
I mean, if you guys aren't fully comfortable with something here, we can,
Yeah, it's
maybe there's an option.
It's fine, but it'd be nice to switch it around a little bit too, right?
well, maybe, you know, this next year we go with this and year prior, maybe a board member sits in on that committee for the calendar too, and that way you kinda get an outside perspective as well.
It's fine if you wanna hold it over, I program it on the 22nd of January.
Dr. Zuko, I have a question actually. Did we confirm that the 10 PD days that we were discussing at the committee meeting, because we just met that once, and then we were gonna check on the
It's not in the
PD days
negotiating
or whatever?
agreement.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you guys think? You wanna?
Well, you have a motion in a second.
Yep,
And vote on it.
Vote on it.
okay. All right, motion and a second on approving this calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that's our calendar. All right, vital network update.
So Vital Network was the work done by WERC. There is a document in the folder. We had a meeting talking about our results. So it was broken out into one big overall category that was called educator well-being. And then it was broken into 3 themes out of there. One theme was care and support, the other time management, and the other voice and decision making. So the survey was taken by teachers and paras. The survey had 7 different items that they could select, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then the definitions, what Vital Network considers well-being is influenced by personal factors and workplace conditions which affect the sense of hope, connection, and energy, so on and so forth. So our scores, our overall educator well-being scores of 5.43. We had about a little over half of our teachers and paras respond. We had 29 respondents out of 51.
We had such a low rate there.
I couldn't tell you.
How was this administered?
They came during one of our PDs, did a presentation, and if you were there, you could fill it out there. Otherwise, they sent me a link to it, and then I sent the link out to all teachers and paras.
So you don't even have like a feeling of why? Because the hard part for me is a survey that only had 50% participation. It's kind of like,
Most surveys, 50% is awesome.
well, yeah, but it's hard to make much for decisions on it, you know.
Because, I mean, most surveys, you won't get that large of a percentage.
But no feeling of why we had such a
Either
low participation.
they're content, or I don't know.
Okay, interesting. All right.
We had 14 from the Richardton building, 15 from the Taylor building. Our 2 highest areas in the overall was the statement, I like our students. That scored a 5.7, 96.44% of the ones who took the survey scored it at agree or above. The second highest area was I want to keep working here with a 5.79, 89.28% scored it agree or above. The lowest 2 areas is most days I feel a sense of accomplishment about what I do. 5.04, 85.71% agree or above. And then that was actually, the 2 bottom ones were tied. So the other one was my job positively contributes to my sense of well-being, 5.04 again. But you notice the percentages is different, and that goes back to your points. So it still had a 5.04 number, but with these points, the percentages came out to be a little different. And then the 3 themes from highest to lowest: care and support, 5.28, voice and decision making, 5.23, and our lowest area was time management with 4.39. Care and support, again, highest 2 areas. I ask my colleagues for help when I need it, 96.44% agree or better. I feel supported by my colleagues, 96.44% agree or better. So those 2 were pretty close. Lowest, I put 3 areas because the second lowest was actually tied again. I feel supported by my students was the 67.86. Educators are respected in my community, 78.57. And our school is purposeful in how we welcome employees into our school culture with 64.28% agree or better. Voice and decision making, highest 2 areas, have the freedom to choose how to best meet the needs of our students. 92.86 of the respondents agreed or better. Second, building staff and building leadership work together to resolve concerns. 89.28% agree or better.
Are these, the questions, the way they're phrased here, is this is this the wording that was used in the survey, or is that a paraphrase of the? Okay.
That's the
This
exact
is
wording.
Exact wording, okay.
Lowest two areas in that, which kind of conflicts, 7 and 2 kind of conflict, because in 2 it says that staff and leadership work together to resolve concerns, but then in 7, I feel comfortable discussing my concerns with district leadership. That's low at 57.14%. And then 8, I understand the rationale behind important decisions made by district leadership that affect my work. 60.71% agree or better. And then our lowest area as a whole, time management. 2 highest areas, my school provides me with the physical resources to meet the needs of my students, 82.76. The amount of time I spend in scheduled meeting is reasonable, with 72.42% agree or better. And then our 2 lowest areas is the amount of school work I do outside of school hours is reasonable, and that's 44.83 say agree or better to that one. And 7, I generally have the amount of time necessary to get my work done, 48.27% agree or better on that one. So then what we're tasked to do for Vital Network here is then to look at this data and try and figure out what we're gonna tackle, because we can't tackle all the lows, and we can't necessarily celebrate all the highs. So we wanna pick a few that we're gonna tackle. One area that we decided was time management, and that's kind of in this paragraph here. With time management, the staff feel that they don't have the time necessary in school to do all the work that is required. So then we have to start asking our the questions like, well, what are you being asked to do that isn't necessary? What are some things that maybe we can take off your plate? What are some ways that we can get them the time they need to do their job properly? And then ask ourselves questions, keep doing that until we can figure out a positive way to help relieve that stress. And then the other area, Lindsay and Misty, do you remember what it was? It was time management, and it was new staff, welcoming new staff, because that was a very low area, and we don't do a good job of welcoming them and showing them, the copier's here, this is where all the paperwork, and making sure that they know where everything is. A lot of times it's just, here's your classroom, good luck.
Sounds so much worse.
So this survey was generated by the Vital Network?
Yep.
Okay, and we didn't have any input, no, nothing like that?
Nope.
And then your statement here, you say that try to figure out why. How do they prescribe a method of how to figure out why, or is it a brainstorm, or is it a session, or what?
They have a template that we'll go through, and then and it's mainly brainstorming. What areas are they struggling in? Is it doing all the standards grading every day? Is that the area that's hard for them to do? Is it keeping track of their standard binders or whatever it is? What's the area that's bogging them down?
I'll share an experience on that. Staff surveys, it's always interesting. One of the best leaders I ever had, we had a survey, company says, keep this secret, anonymous, all that kind of. So we get the results of the survey, and our supervisor comes in a room, closes the doors, has us all in there, and read the results of the first question. And it said, comment, he reads the comment, and he looks up and he goes, okay, who said that? And we were like, oh, who said it? So, alright. And it was interesting that working it through that way, once you got that kind of transparency, you actually got somewhere. I only share that story to say that, sometimes these surveys, what's tough, and that's why I asked that question of, why did the scores get that way? If you just kind of sit around with a brainstorming session and just try to guess, in popular opinion, I'd like to see us get to the point where we can dig into this, have a culture where you can trust and the ultimate concern there is staff retention and,
Right.
which is a strategic imperative here, but, so, yeah, it's kind of interesting, this survey, the way they frame this up, and did this. What's the state's intent with this then?
It's not through the state.
Oh, it's not?
Mhm.
Okay,
No, this is, we're one of the pilots for this area.
okay.
So it's us, Killdeer, New Salem in the southwest, and then in the northwest, Williston, Alexander, Lockford City, and I think there's one other school.
So just this Vital Network company
Mhm.
themselves reached out to get that pilot?
Well, I should say it's not through the state, but
Okay.
Vital Networks reached out to the state,
Okay,
and the state's giving us
so it is a
funding.
contractor that the state is,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't report anything to the state.
okay, I see.
And Dr. Ziegler did ask, Riley if he,
Yeah.
like, do they have suggestions? Like, great, this is what our data or what our survey is showing, but what do they suggest? And
Yeah.
so he was kind of supposed to be digging into that for us to see if there was a suggestion based on what we're seeing from this survey
Yeah.
to move forward with these two goals in mind. What would this company suggest moving forward?
Cause I'll be very disappointed if the state is paying $35,000 per school and all they do is this survey. And then hand the results to you and figure it
Tell
out.
us to brainstorm and figure out the
Yeah,
problem.
so I was wondering,
Yeah.
what's their follow-up?
Right, and that's what I asked Riley, and,
Oh.
yeah, and, you know, what is their follow-up, what are their recommendations, what are they suggesting?
Now, who's right?
He is the co-director of the, what is it now, Western Education Services Cooperative,
Oh, okay,
so.
I'd be disappointed too, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just, yeah,
Money was-
I'm glad it's not our money.
Well.
Kinda is.
Well,
Yeah.
It's not our school. money.
not our school
Yeah.
money, not coming out of our budget there.
Well, and maybe some of this information can be used along with our strategic.
Oh, yeah,
plan,
absolutely.
and some of these.
Yeah.
Recommendations built into that.
Right. Yep. So that was the update on that.
Okay, any more questions on that, or we'll just stay tuned for the follow-up? Open enrollment and tuition agreements, or agreement, not singular.
So we have a family lives in Gladstone. Their student went to Dickinson, was not happy there, so they started homeschooling. The parent said, I can't homeschool anymore, so asked us if we could take their child. It is a third grader. I talked to Lindsay. She said we should be able to handle that since the third grade is split already. So the open enrollment would be for 25-26 school year. Tuition agreement would be for the rest of this school year. And the name is Patterson.
So we're good to go class-wise?
Yep, I'm at 14 in one, 15 in the other for third grade, so.
So recommendation is to accept. Okay,
I'll make a motion to go ahead. I'll second.
moved by Dwayne, second by John for open enroll and tuition agreement for Patterson. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Alright, future staffing discussion. Emily, I think you requested that. You wanna
Or-
start?
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Whoever wants to start.
Damien and I talked about this and how we both feel it's important to get started on this sooner rather than later. Especially, and I talked to Lindsay about it also, with the numbers that they have over there increasing, and it's better to figure out what we're gonna do sooner as far as classrooms, if we need to split. I know first grade is a tough class, so we might wanna split first grade, but we don't have any rooms over there to split first grade. So, you know, trying to brainstorm on what we can do to make room, or we talked about portables. I know the building committee has talked about portables a little bit for that. Very little bit, yeah, and then also, you know, how can we keep recruiting the teachers that we know the openings are here, such as the special education, the music, and when we find out if there's any other openings. So I guess that's what we were hoping to have a discussion
Yeah,
tonight.
I mean, you know, what I've seen so far is, and having been in education, it's critical that you try to be out in front of this, because if you wait until contracts come out, or, you know, teachers start thinking about that next year already in, you know, the February, March timeframe. So I think it would be wise for us as a board to have this discussion now at least, and ask for those recommendations so that the January board meeting we can approve, with the intent that at that point then Mr. Ziegler, you know, hit the colleges, go to the career fairs, get to the, you know what we're after. And then there's a component of that as well. Mr. Ziegler brought up some good points too, of like, it's not only just what you want and what you have for students, it's also what you have for teachers, right? And I mean, it's difficult. We've advertised, guys, in the past for, we need special ed and art. Guess what? Nobody goes to school for special ed and art usually. But maybe if we get to know our staff, and that maybe there's someone that has that's interested in special ed. And then in order to support that, we need to replace them on the backside, right? So, we have someone in staff that's interested in counseling, whatever it might be, and would like to go for that for their masters, but they're kind of stuck because, we can't even replace you as a teacher. And we say things like, we can't find teachers. Being proactive would be big. Getting out into the schools, get to know, you know, find out from our staff as well what that would be. So I'd like at least to have, you know, in January, us have the ability to approve something that then we can turn loose the administration to go after it. You know, that would be a big piece of what I was trying to bring here. And that way we're not advertising after we don't get contracts signed, and then frankly we end up just getting the leftovers is really what you do at a point like that. So.
Sorry. go
We've
ahead.
got the music teacher, the two that put in their resignation, we got them advertised.
Yes.
Currently.
Yep, those are out. We've had one phone call, no physical application in either one. And the phone call was for special education.
And one email for special education.
Oh, then that's the email, it's not a phone call then?
Yeah.
Yeah, only one.
But it's fairly early,
Yeah,
you know, in the year, but I think what you were asking for was, you know, come January, let's try and predict where we might need that extra teacher too, or if we're gonna split classes or that kind of thing.
right.
Is that right? Am I, you know?
Yeah, certainly recommendations from the administration of what we want to look at for staff. I'd even advocate that we need to do things, like I said, the career fairs, this and that. If you find somebody, if one of our administrators goes to a college and we find out, hey, this student who is in the area, grew up in wherever, is graduating this year, and we'd like to, let's figure it out, right? I mean, that's how you be proactive about that and make it happen. Otherwise, then when you find out in August, something, I said, you're just picking up leftovers then at that point. So that piece as well is part of the recruitment efforts. People know people and get in there and figure out who's doing what.
Maybe even in the January timeframe, you know, to kind of help to recruit, you say, you know what, we'll stick our neck out and let's look for an extra elementary teacher. I mean, that's certainly a decision the board needs to look at and make, and try to make an educated guess on what we may need for next year, but would we be hurt if we had one extra teacher somewhere?
No.
I mean, it would, it's gonna cost us extra money, but if you had an extra teacher and you got by then with one less para, or however you shifted things around, you know, would it hurt us?
We would have work for them.
No, compared to what we've seen in the past,
Yeah.
where you're looking for provisional certifications, where you're looking for, we were looking at certifying a fella from France that came to us via Canada. Let's get out ahead of this is exactly the point.
Yeah.
That, if you find someone, let's figure it out, right? So,
And I think having the personnel committee meet with the administrators and work through that too would be a good idea.
Sure. And from a, you know, to take this a step further then, from a renewing contracts standpoint, this will be the year coming up for the negotiated agreement to be opened up and looked at again. Of course, it's also a legislative year. Maybe we should offset those.
Might be better.
Good luck.
But,
I don't know how you negotiate when you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
well, we're doing a 2-year agreement.
Right, that's what I said.
So,
You'd know for 1 year, but not.
you know for 1 year, so
Yeah.
if you went to a 1-year agreement this year and then went back to a 2-year, then you'd be a year off.
I mean,
I don't know if that would.
Insinuate, have you had something in the past where we ended up in a bad spot with what the
Well,
state
we
did
just started
versus
doing
where-
2 years now, so
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the first time, but if you negotiate without knowing what you're gonna get paid, I mean,
Well, if
we've
you do it
already,
annually, I mean,
we have
it's-
already got 0 increase from the state one,
Multiple
okay,
times.
we've had that, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be tough.
Yes.
If you could do it, I mean, financially, we're probably better off than we've ever been where you could do it, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think I would
know how
try
that
it.
should be, but
You gotta get that by the teachers too, so. That's why he said good luck reading his
oh,
mind.
they're very.
No, I'm talking financially, only working with the state.
Yeah.
Working with the teachers is no problem.
Yeah.
I've never had.
We truly never had a problem.
No.
But it does end up, you know, the legislature meets and then you have to do your negotiated agreement. It never fails the legislature, the last thing they
It's
approve
education.
is education, and you're down to the last week when you should have your negotiated agreement done and you finally know what the legislature's giving you.
But you can actually start negotiating earlier, get some of the other things out of the way, and then save that piece for last too, so you're not waiting, don't wait till the last day and then start negotiating. Start negotiating earlier and then.
And I don't wanna put words in the teachers' mouths, you guys can correct me back there if I'm wrong, but I think that they would feel more comfortable even signing earlier or have it like with the later negotiations. If we told them ahead of time, like, yep, your classroom is going to be split. We sometimes are waiting to decide that into March, and there's teachers that don't wanna walk into a classroom at 25.
Right.
You know, so I think if they had even that verbal, like, yes, like, we're looking for another teacher, we're going to split first grade, we're, you know, like, that's huge for them to be able to make the decision on staying here or not staying here.
Well, and staff recruitment to the same point. If I'm teaching in Dickinson and I'm looking at Richardton-Taylor before the small school atmosphere, but if I'm teaching a class of 16 in there and we as a board and administration haven't decided if the class is 14 or 28, yeah, I'm just gonna, okay, never mind.
Right.
When you guys actually have it figured out, give me a call and maybe I missed that opportunity, because I'll tell you what, coming to teach an elementary or a primary grade level of 14 is significantly different than 28.
Yes.
That's a big difference, so, you know, those are the pieces that's what I mean about recommendation, and to the best of our ability and knowledge, that we then as a board can say, yep, go after this.
Well, I think that's in elementary is where we run into that most of the time with splitting classes. We should know in January if we're gonna split a class
Right.
next year.
That's what we're.
That shouldn't be that difficult to do.
Yeah.
In the secondary levels, the challenge becomes the multiple certifications, where we're looking for someone that replaces a veteran or something that we've had that had those multiple, you know, we heard from Mr. Isaac about that.
Yeah.
You know, the nonsense that he's had to go through for certification for, but that's the piece, like, you know, to my point, you don't normally find somebody that's certified to teach, you know, science and music or whatever, and, you know, yeah.
So I think we should schedule a personnel meeting and get the admin together and figure out
Should we look at that early January or?
before the meeting, yeah.
Meeting's January 8th.
I don't know what'll happen. You got holidays.
You gotta,
we got
you
early.
have to have a feeling of what you're gonna split next year already. I mean, you gotta get an idea.
Sure.
I mean, and that's the other thing too, is now Lindsay's gonna be here 2 years in a row, which is great. So we have we have a principal that's gonna,
We're duct taping.
so we have a principal that's gonna be here next year.
Right, yeah.
So you can make, I think they should be recommending to us in January what they see.
Yeah, I mean, I can make a recommendation without a personnel meeting,
That's true.
but
Yeah.
if you
right.
want further
Yeah.
discussion on it, it may be beyond a board meeting discussion at that point.
Yeah.
But I can certainly have a recommendation by January and give you one right now if you want.
Well, I think the goal would be that on the February, I think it was 12th meeting or something like that, we have something that we can approve
Yeah.
that delegates the authority to go out and,
Advertise
to the
or
point of
something.
advertise, make offers of these roles. I'd like to have that we're not even waiting until the March or April meetings to get board approval to make an offer. No, go make an offer. We can stack hands on this. Go make an offer for these things. Absolutely.
Okay.
Somehow roll into that discussion though, we need to figure out, are we gonna need another classroom in Taylor?
We're gonna need something
One,
with the number of kids. I would say two
Two rooms?
rooms. It would be really nice if we could take Mrs. Mack's room, make that an office, and then have something where we have two other rooms. The office where it is not where an
Mrs.
office
Max
should
is
be.
downstairs, you're not thinking the
I'm not
classroom.
thinking Kayla, Mrs. Scaly.
Say what?
Oh, cause it's by the front door.
Because it's by the door, yeah.
Oh, right, where the concessions used to be, or?
No, on the
No.
top.
Other end.
The other end,
Other-
yeah, the west end.
So like if we were to put the portable or something where we had talked where like the T-Trid, the old building is, I really am uncomfortable having it disconnected from the building. But the only way to connect is to destroy Kayla's room. But if we made that the office area instead of, so we can talk about it all night, I got a plan. I have two plans actually, but I mean, I don't wanna talk about it all right now.
That seems like an important discussion that needs to happen though with the building committee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, probably, you do building committee, and then if I come personnel wise for splitting classes and whatever, that would probably be handy as well.
Yep.
Cause then it would just be, oh no, we can't do that,
Can't do three.
Can't do three.
But we can do the meetings back to back.
Yeah.
Well, we can do three, we just have to, it'd be a meeting.
Yeah, we
have to
advertise.
advertise
It's
it.
just gotta be open.
Yeah, Amber will have to take minutes.
I mean, I'm certainly okay with that if you
I would do it that way.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a discussion that needs to happen quickly, because if
Yeah.
we're talking actually dropping a portable in and putting something together like that.
Yeah.
We gotta know.
It's a yesterday conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, you wanna organize a couple of meetings?
Yep. Will do.
Any more discussion on that, or ready to move on? Okay, thank you. Policy, yeah, good discussion, policy update, discussion, so we've got a few things to do here, it looks like.
So as my email showed, what the School Board Association said is we're out of compliance with our policies. So we need to do a lot of updating, and we're at the point right now with some of them being so old and some of the codes not matching up with the titles of what they're supposed to be, that they recommended that we rescind all of our current policies and then start from scratch. So rescinding all of our current policies, and then in that motion, we would have to say that past practice will govern district operations covered by the former policies until the board adopts new policies, so then we can keep going as we've always done. We're just following past practices. And then when a new policy gets updated and implemented, then that's when that policy takes over.
What's the point of rescinding, just so that we don't have to edit? Is that the?
That's the main
idea,
thing,
the
yeah,
mindset? Okay.
yeah. Time wise, it'd
Right.
be easier to, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
I asked the same thing the other day.
Yeah. And can we rescind, do we need to rescind on this meeting, or can we actually do it next meeting right before adopting new policies? Of course, you got the exception of these two. Right?
Right.
It probably doesn't matter, it's probably, I mean,
Yeah,
as long as we're running off of,
right, off of past practices.
How do we know that? How do we know if we're running off past practices?
We're doing what we've always done. That's, I mean,
well,
that's,
you know if you're running off of past practices, you might not know if you're running off of the right.
right.
Well, how did we get to that point
Practices.
like this as a board? We don't have policies, protocols, procedures. What's been the lack there?
I think a lot of it is, honestly, is the legislature. They're changing things all the time. So then when the policies get updated at School Boards Association, not all the schools always get it. It's just,
Whose
it's not a good,
responsibility is that?
it's
School
not
board
a good thing.
president? Is that us as a board as a whole to know that? Is it?
That's one of our policies.
Right, it's okay.
It's,
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
it is, actually,
It is,
I
yeah.
ran across it.
Yeah.
It's the responsibility of the superintendent.
Superintendent or policy liaison, they called
Okay.
it, whoever the board, puts
Sure.
in charge of that. So, and I think what happened too is like, BDA, for example. The policy BDA that we currently have talks about board meetings. When board meetings are, what is a special meeting, what's an executive session. The new policy BDA isn't anything about board meetings, it's about adopting board policy. So then you go through our old list, oh, we have BDA, I don't have to worry about that one. Or, and there's multiples of those. That
So
we
you gotta
think we
dig-
have it,
Gotta
but
dig
it's,
it a little deeper than the
Yeah,
title is what it's
right.
saying,
yeah.
Does BDA stand for anything, or like all the 3 letters, 4 letters before the policy, what do they stand for?
The first letter stands for the group of people it affects. So any B policy is a board. I can't remember now. Students are F. Any F policies. Teachers are P maybe.
It's on here. So it's in your
It's in
OneDrive. If you go to the tab, right after you click on, RTPSD board K-12, then you get this screen here of, 24, 25 board meeting archive general, and then there's policies. Click on policies,
Oh, there you go.
you got all the sections that pop
Yeah.
up.
So any policy that starts with an A is concerning the district, B is school board, C is our administration, D personnel, E is bargaining, so on and so forth.
Students, instruction. Fiscal management. Yep,
There.
Yep, there you go, so you have access to look at and read through all these policies as you, at your leisure.
I went through a handful last night.
Oh, yeah, I started just picking through a few of them too,
Yes.
just, out of curiosity, and it's a monumental task, I mean, do you know if there's been anything in the past where the School Boards Association has looked at our policies in the past, or has it always just been current superintendent looking through them?
I asked them and I don't know when they started keeping records on the computer, but they had a request in 2019 they didn't necessarily review our policies, they just, the request was to get all the new policies to us. So,
Yeah.
but then before then, they didn't have anything records wise.
So when you contacted them, that's the first time you said, here's all our policies.
Exactly,
Go through 'em.
yeah, that we know of, I mean, that they have record
Well,
of.
for some of the one.
Yeah.
So my question too is if we rescind these or whatever, are we rescinding any policies that we have as a school that we chose to have that were different than the school board association?
Well, they're broken up into different sections. So you have required, recommended, school requested. There's another one, admin regulations, board regulations.
So are we
So-
just going to rescind a certain portion?
No, it would be everything. But there again, we're still running off a policy. We're still running off of those because of that statement in the motion.
But you're gonna redo all of them?
Yes. So we'll have to take a look at those ones that we have specifically that others don't and see what we wanna do with them.
Yeah, that was your question, right? What do we have extra
Like the cell phone
we've
policy,
done?
I know, or whatever was different, that there wasn't necessarily one from the school
Right.
board association, we kinda had our own.
Right,
So now,
And was that policy or?
that's admin. That's,
it was in the handbook, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's what I'm wondering is like.
that would
if
be
we're
an
rescinding
admin
everything-
regulation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
so
we're
that-
rescinding
those
all
would
this
go
stuff,
too,
yeah.
So, okay, so we actually did have a policy.
Well, if we had an admin regulation.
Oh.
Those aren't, those aren't approved by the board, but they're still in the policy book. They still have a code, a
So we
policy
can,
code
but
and
we can
everything
keep that
else.
stuff. I mean,
Well,
we can bring it back,
we can bring it back.
right?
Well, we
Is
can
that-
bring all of them back, yeah, it's just that. Mhm.
Right,
It's gonna be a job.
yes.
Or-
Not gonna happen one day.
No. It'd be months. The easiest group is gonna be the required, cause you can't change those.
Is that about 50 of them or
Mhm.
so?
Yeah.
So required is, this is required, here's the wording, put your letterhead on it. That's-
Right. They'll might have, like in BDA, for example, that will do the first reading tonight. It says, under adoption, second paragraph, where you see the bolded 2/3.
Mhm.
So you have a choice. You can put in 2/3, or you can scratch 2/3 and just have it a majority of the board. So do you want 2/3 of the board, or do you want a majority of the board? So you can choose out of those two.
So what if the majority of the board doesn't agree on what this should be?
That's right.
I mean, not trying to throw a wrinkle, but how do you do that?
Well, if the majority of the board doesn't agree, then it fails, so,
But this is
but it's
required.
required.
This is just, the only value of adding a 2/3 is that then you are giving the authority of the board to a committee to amend and adopt at a 2/3. Cause your committee's gonna obviously
No,
be composed of more than
no,
one.
2/3 you need to have 2/3 majority to
Of
pass
the board, so that's
anything.
4 out of 5.
Oh, I see, okay, so this is not saying 2/3,
No,
oh, okay,
No, no, no.
okay,
yeah,
Yeah, essentially for us, it's 4 out of 5
4 out of
Right.
5 to
Yeah.
change it, okay.
to meet that.
So there's no way to do that though, to give the policy committee
committees can't
to,
vote,
okay.
yeah, committees can't make,
Just recommendations.
they can make recommendations.
Okay.
Put it all
Bring it
together.
back and the boards get to read the whole thing anyway. Every policy.
Well,
Yeah.
you'll bring it back, you get a first reading,
But we will
Yeah.
tell it.
and then the
If
next
there's
month,
any changing, then the board.
then the next month you can vote on it, but you have to have, well, that's a question too, so we have to have 2 readings right now, don't we, or on some policies?
Until you pass BDA.
Well, that's my point here is how do we've got an elephant to eat here, how do we make it reasonable?
Once you
Yeah.
pass BDA, you can put in a policy in one reading with either 2/3 of a vote or majority, whichever you decide is in BDA.
Okay. Oh, okay, see, yeah, this is saying,
So it's,
you can adopt,
we're
the
adopting
board
the
may
ability
waive
to-
by, if you say 2/3 majority of the board, you may waive the second reading.
Right.
Okay.
Or
Which-
majority,
which
or
is-
change it to majority.
Or just change it to majority.
Right.
I would make a motion to change it to majority.
Well, right now on this one,
We're not on.
we
board
are,
yet.
we are on the first,
Oh my god.
right now we're on
This
the
is
first
gonna be a long
reading of this. So, yeah, right now,
We're not even on the first reading.
No, we're not
yet.
even that far
no,
yet.
we're not down there yet.
No,
No,
we gotta create a policy committee first.
Oh, okay, so we're not even looking at this motion tonight.
No, we need to do that
Oh,
tonight.
we do need to do this one tonight.
Yeah,
So your policy committee first.
right,
But that's, E section 3. Not
right.
E section 1.
Okay,
When do we have to have it done?
There's no time limit, but
10 years ago.
the warning she gave, cause Jody asked me, so what happens? And she said,
yeah,
well, it's kind of pretty serious, cause if you get audited by the feds or anybody, you could lose your accreditation and school approval, so
Yeah.
you're no longer a school.
Oh, there's that.
It's been fun, we'll see you later.
Go get some water.
that'd be the extreme. I
That
think.
would be the
But-
extreme, yeah,
Okay, we've
I don't
taken-
see
we've
that
taken step
happening.
one, we're working on it.
yeah,
I think we're headed down the right path.
I don't see that happening, yeah.
Okay, so step one, create a policy committee.
And as you said, this is gonna be a lot of meetings, a lot of time.
Yeah, well, not that I'm looking for more work, but I can,
There's no reason we can't do these remote via Teams meetings, right?
Well, we were talking about that too, about trying to do as much as we can virtual,
Yeah.
of sending things to the committee and getting
Right.
responses and
Yeah.
doing as much as that as possible.
Sure.
but we also talked a little bit about, I don't wanna meet at night for
No,
this stuff. I'd rather do it
yeah,
a little bit during a normal day, but.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd be glad to be on the committee. Just, I would really like to be as much virtual as possible. You know, I have no problem with just send it out, do some edits, do some notes, do some suggestions.
Anybody else wish to be on the committee?
I don't think you can.
Sounds like you got 2 already.
No, I, okay.
He's making sure nobody wants to fight over it.
Right, I don't wanna step out on anybody's toes. I know, I'm fine with it.
Do we need a motion to create the committee then?
Yes,
Probably.
I would
Probably.
move to create a policy committee with Damien and Jody on there, for the board members.
I'll second.
I already did.
He seconded it before he was done with the motion.
Then I'm 30.
Okay, any discussion or some more discussion on that? You're good with that?
Yep.
Is there gonna be other people on this committee, or just like the 3 of you working together, or what's this look like?
I think for the most part, it'll be the 3 of us. When we come into policies, especially with personnel, we'll, go through it with the teachers before we meet to see what, what their ideas are.
Okay.
So. We'll try and do most of the work.
Sounds good. Do we need to start, well, let's stick with the motion here. Any more discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we need to start like looking at the 50 or whatever required ones like ASAP?
Yeah, I already have them ready to go, so I can just email them out.
Okay. Yeah, that first shot should be easy.
Yeah.
And possibly first readings then in January on those.
Right. Well, it'll be second reading on this in January. Once this is approved, you can approve all of the required in one reading
On the spot.
on the
Okay.
spot.
Okay.
So you can still do it in January.
Right.
So this will include the first reading,
We want to do this the first reading tonight.
but first we have to resend.
Right.
yes, item 2, rescind all current policies. Please see attached.
And as you said, if you didn't want to rescind them all tonight, you wouldn't have to. You could rescind them first in January and then adopt your,
Second reading on this, adopt this,
right,
and then roll.
right.
The only
That's
concern that I'd have there, if we rescind everything, even though we've got exposure no matter what here, but if we have something go on, and we don't have any policy procedure to lean on, and our comment is, what did we say we'd be going by?
Covered by former policies until the board
Former
adopts.
practices?
Yeah, well, but then
Former
it's former
policies.
practices from our old policies, so we're still following our old policies.
It says covered by former policies, not practices.
Right.
It says policies.
Yeah, yeah, so it's covered, it's.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm struggling, just why not rescind them after we've got something to put in their place? I'm still struggling with what the point of rescinding is.
Just to have a clean slate.
Okay.
Start fresh.
Otherwise we go through and rescind one at a time for the 50 that we're gonna throw in January.
But we don't have to rescind one at a time, we just say we rescind these following
Or
policies
do a list.
Yeah,
prior to adopting the new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you could do it that way too. It
It would-
really doesn't.
Probably would work just as. So basically you're knocking them out one for one. One out, one in.
I
Well, it would
bet
be-
we'll have a,
I would imagine you could do it as, something along the lines rescinding the list presented by the policy committee.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And that list goes in the minutes.
right, because you guys are gonna have that list of which ones you've worked on regardless.
What they're saying is because in the motion, if we say what they say we say, it doesn't matter if we have the policies in place or not, because we're still using those policies to make decisions. So even if you rescind them, that's still what we're using until a new policy is made to replace it.
That verbiage come from the School Boards
Yep.
Association.
Yep,
so when you say they, who's the they?
School Boards Association,
So is it Amy that, or? who?
Patty,
Okay, okay. Yeah.
no,
No.
no, she's the policy gal.
More than likely she's already
I
thought.
mean, I feel like
Yeah.
it's covered, by the way it's well.
Hopefully we're not covered. They reviewed these for.
Well, you're not
some
covered on,
years.
you're not covered on any of them anyway.
Right, it's,
Well, I mean, you are to a degree, but
Right.
But there's,
there's things that are missing,
They're
obviously.
outdated anyway, so
Right.
you're operating like
Yeah.
you're,
Right,
it doesn't really,
I don't know if
it
it really
doesn't make any
matters.
difference what you
it
do.
doesn't,
Yeah,
You can do it either way, however.
alright, I move to rescind Richardton-Taylor School District's listed policies that pass government district operations, covered by former policies until the board adopts new policies.
all right, they have a motion
Second.
and a second. More discussion. You guys good to go with that? More discussion. Okay, okay, seeing no more discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Alright, so first reading of BDA. Or BDAB.
BDA, procedure for adopting board policy.
Okay, what are the highlights here?
So this is the policy that allows you by a 2/3 vote or a majority of the board, whatever you decide, to waive the second reading. So you can adopt the policy in one reading if you have this policy and use it in your motion.
Okay,
And the things that need to be decided are the 2/3, whether you want it 2/3 or whether you want just the majority. On the second page in bold, whether you want it accessible on the district website and available to the public in accordance, or just available to the public. The bolded name of district, we input Richardton-Taylor Public School District, number 34. And then the last page, superintendent or policy liaison, who's responsible for keeping up, and then who the policy liaison is, whether it's the superintendent, business manager. One or other, yeah.
Why do we wanna make it to where you can approve a policy in one reading?
I don't think we want to. If that's the way we're implying, I wouldn't.
My thoughts are with the 2 readings that gives, if you do it at one board meeting and then you're gonna get some public input back out of it before you vote on it at the next one, right?
Well, it just gives you time too
And
to
time to
really
think about it.
digest it, yeah.
So for example, on this policy right now, this is our first reading. Okay, we can all take this home, come back in a month, have the second reading, and then vote on it in the January meeting.
Yep.
You know,
So that's 2 readings though,
Yep,
so what
that's-
this
that's
one would
two.
do is we could read this right now and pass it right now. With 1 reading is what this new is trying to.
If this was already
If this
passed.
was,
If
if
this
this was
was already a
Yeah.
policy,
You're right.
old policy says 2 readings.
Well, that's just it, why do we wanna go to 1 reading, I
But
guess?
so here's my thing, can you pick which ones you want to do
Oh, yeah,
in 1 reading?
yeah.
Because like if there's requireds from the school board association over the state, why do we have to do 2?
Yeah,
We have to do it regardless. So on those ones, then we could just say, okay, we'll do it in 1 reading in accordance with BDA.
yeah,
And if we want to do it in 2 readings, we can still do a 2 reading.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yep. You just don't say, like you said, you don't say in accordance with BDA, you
Right.
just leave that out. And then you have to do 2 readings.
One of the pieces I at least want clarification on this is in the development phase. It almost reads in that first paragraph like a developed policy has to be brought to the board's attention, and then the board determines if a need exists and then directs the board policy committee or superintendent to draft a policy. I don't know if I understand that. Maybe I'm just need some time to digest that, but it seems, okay, so a student says, hey, Mr. Ziegler, I think we should have a policy on this. Does that then just come to the board and the board, is that just a discussion point, or how does that development procedure, how does it really work?
Well, I guess the way I read it is the proposed policies would come to the superintendent first. And I think a lot of that is to make sure we don't already have a policy in place.
Right.
And then the superintendent would bring it to the board and say, this was proposed, do you feel we need one? And if yes, we need one, then superintendent would draft one. If we don't need it, it ends there.
I guess I was struggling with whether or not the board needs to be involved in that determination if a need exists, but maybe it is a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Is
Well,
this a required one?
yes.
So we can't.
Well, it's Cognia, so all of the Cognia ones, if we want accreditation, I don't know why they don't put them in the required section.
Okay, so.
But I don't think it's required with this exact verbiage, is it?
Yes,
Oh, it is, so Cognia determines that this exact verbiage?
I don't know if Cognia
Oh.
did, but whoever
Okay.
drafted it,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
You gotta have a PhD for that.
So this is something we can't change, aside from the 2/3,
And that's only if an expedited process is deemed necessary. The board may waive it by a 2/3 majority of the board.
well, it would be either a majority or 2/3, that's when we would need to decide.
Decide that.
Right.
so only if there was a motion to do away with the second reading, would we
Right.
do, other than that, we'd do 2 readings at all.
So,
Right.
so this,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's-
we're
yes.
still doing 2 readings,
Right.
but if we decide we wanna waive it,
Right.
takes 2/3 majority. I don't know why 2/3 majority seems like a safe bet.
Yeah.
Something like that.
make that want to say 2/3 then for future or whatever.
I think there's a majority.
You're good with majority?
I would put that as a majority because you get what, and it really, whatever.
Yeah, but if, I don't know, because,
If you got the majority and you don't have 2/3, then it would just need a second reading.
right,
And
So I
then
don't
pass
think
on
that's
the
a bad
majority on
thing.
second reading.
yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing to have.
Well, I hope we never get into a point where it's a rush for some reason, cause that means something going on.
Yeah.
But,
It's
yeah.
true. Because if it's not a majority, then maybe you should take a little more time on it.
Mhm.
I don't know. Depending on what it is, I guess.
So, we don't have to vote on it, but 2/3 on that one, yeah.
That's fine.
Alright, what's the next one?
Next one would
Posting
be
on the, accessible on the website.
accessible on the website.
I would say so. I mean, the more open you are to everything being seen, I think the better off you are.
Do we have a physical book right now, a manual?
No, you just rescinded it.
You used to have a policy.
Yes, we do.
You used to have policy.
Board members?
Board members.
Oh, I'm sure it's
They
not.
weren't that thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's on the computer and we just,
Where mine is. So, yes, accessible on the website,
because
okay.
there are people that look at our policy, there are people that,
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Yep.
it's helpful. Okay,
Next one would be, who do you want superintendent or policy liaison?
superintendent, and then on the next one, we make business manager the policy liaison, does that make sense?
No?
No,
Or no.
Be both superintendent.
It's same to.
Yeah, it'd both be superintendent,
that would make sense.
yeah.
So it all lies in, okay. Okay, so there's reading one of BDA. Any more questions on BDA? If not, let's go to BDAB, savings clause.
Do you wanna make a motion on DDA?
For the first reading?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yes. Okay, it's moved to accept first reading of BDA.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. BDAB, savings clause.
So this is that if something in a policy is deemed illegal or something happens where it shouldn't be in there, then it only affects that part of the policy and it's not gonna make any other policy out of compliance. So it's like like the school handbook, if something's wrong in the school handbook and we don't have a savings clause, then the whole handbook's gone. Whereas the savings clause, then it's just the thing that's wrong we can remove but keep the rest of the handbook.
That's interesting that you need a clause for that.
Kinda like the Santa Claus,
yeah.
But not,
yet.
okay.
And the only thing is put in the name of the district on this one. And this one is recommended, you wouldn't have to do it if you didn't want to.
Wow, I think that one makes sense.
Smoke and weed on this one.
Just to accept the first reading, accept that as a first reading, yep.
Yeah, so move.
Okay, motion, second, first reading of BDAB, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Alright, okay, let's do that. RACTC update.
Well, we had a meeting last week Wednesday, we had, just a meet and greet, met with representatives from our district, so. Just a social event. Way everybody gets to meet them. it was a bad night to do it because they were, they were, just reorganizing, so. Ty is the only one that showed up. Dory was gonna come, she got tied up because she got appointed to another committee, so. Usually we get 3 of them to show up, which is nice. Everybody gets to meet the thing that they can get feedback from us, so.
Okay. WERC update.
The last meeting we had was going over the survey results with Riley, so, and we already discussed that, so.
Okay, next meeting, January 8th, 6 p.m. Look for committee meeting communications to be coming out.
Yep.
And meeting adjourned. Thanks, John.